Yo, this is John Chen back from being on the road. I've got the banana shirt on. Somebody made the joke to me earlier today that this shirt was appealing.
Ah,
Oh,
nice.
I know. I got tired on that
That
one.
was nice. I like that one. Yeah.
So this is so great. One of the things that I got a chance to do here recently is that I got a chance to go to the National Speakers Association's main summer conference. It's called Influence. Only 1,100 of your best professional speaker friends are here, and I've got one of them with us, and she got a chance to be showcased in this last conference, and I just said I got to meet her and figure out who she is. She's the most recent winner of the Gene Robertson's Comedy with Class humor competition. She's gotten to hang out with Jimmie J.J. Walker. She's been featured in Newsweek and the New York Post. She's a native of Brooklyn, New York, but now resides in Charlotte, North Carolina. The one and only Tara Brown.
Hey, John.
Comedy.
Hey, hello. How are you?
There we go. Oh wait, look, I have walking. Wait, come on, I have walking music for the. There we go. There's your walking music. Because I
Hey,
heard Tara likes to
listen,
dance.
I'm a humorist. I love good walking music. Thank
We-
you.
oh
How
my
are you?
gosh, I'm doing so good. Tara, you just came back from Orlando. We were just talking pre-show about the influence high, right?
Oh,
Can,
my
can you
word.
share a little bit about what your experience was like, being showcased at the National Speakers Association's Influence Conference?
It was just quite simply amazing. It was my first influence. I had gone to Thrive in March. So that was my first NSA conference. But my first influence was last weekend. And as you said, I had the opportunity to be featured a couple of times during the course of the conference. I was performed at Comedy Night on
Yes.
the Friday night and then Sunday night for the NSA Foundation event. And man, it's just my cup runneth over. My cup is so full. And I was so incredibly humbled
Mm,
and honored that people just thought that I did a good job, said really nice things to me,
yeah.
poured into me. I made so many great new friends, including you, who you
Oh.
were so awesome. That smile of yours, man, listen, people need to bottle that up and sell it on the internet because that just you're so infectious. And so when you just smiled and was saying friendly, nice things to me, it was just great. So it was an amazing time. I'm so full and I learned so much. And
Mm.
I was so overstimulated at one point from just meeting so many people and networking and talking. I was like, I gotta go to a room for like an hour and just like sit with this. And I literally did that. I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Cool.
sit with this for a minute. And it was great. And I'm still on that high. And the cool thing about influencers now, the work begins, right? So I'm made all these great connections and I had two great meetings today as a result of my time at Influence and getting to do this with you today because of Influence, and wouldn't have had those opportunities had I not gone to the conference. So yes, it was amazing.
Oh, it just shows the conference and connection and networking still works here. For those who don't know, too, Thrive is National Speakers Association's winter conference. Is about half the size, but most of the people say it's way more effective. You learn more because that's really speakers working on the craft of speakers. Speaking of the craft of speaking, I want to know, right? My guests want to know who Tara Brown is. So just do me a favor and tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, who Tara Brown is she is a comedian and humorist, a woman of a certain age who proudly wears that banner. And I do corporate comedy, and I also speak to people about pursuing passions even later in life because I'm a person who pursued the art of stand-up comedy at 45 years old. So I like to talk to people to remind them that it does not matter how old you are. If you want to do something, you go out there and you do it. I do clean and family friendly humor, which makes me marketable in a lot of spaces, which is great. And I am just having a blast doing all that.
45?
That's when I started.
Yeah,
I'm
I
I'm
know.
54 now. So
Wow.
that was 9 years ago.
Okay, what now we got to talk about that moment. What was the
Yes.
moment that you decided what'd you do before and what was kind of like the crystalline if there was a moment that
Yeah.
said, I'm going to go do this thing.
So I've spent my entire career working as a PR professional. So I have done PR in book publishing. I used to work for Penguin Books and HarperCollins Publishers. And then I transitioned when I moved. I'm originally, as you said, from Brooklyn, New York. So when I left New York and moved to Charlotte, I started doing PR for a television network. And so I got to do PR in television and film. The great thing about PR is such a transferable skill
Yeah.
that if you know how to do it in one space, you can do it in another. So the interesting thing about my move to Charlotte, I moved to Charlotte and didn't know a soul here. I wanted to do, and I was going to go to either Charlotte or Raleigh.
Okay.
And I used to love sports. I'm not used to, I still love sports memoirs and sports related things.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I was going to go do sports PR in Charlotte. And
Oh.
so they say, if you ever want to tell a God a joke, tell him about your future plans. So I moved to Charlotte to do sports PR, and I moved to Charlotte as opposed to Raleigh because Charlotte had more pro sports teams, and I thought I'd break into there, but didn't end up doing that. Ended up working in television and film.
Hmm.
And one day I was at my old job, and I just thought to myself, you know what? I want to find a hobby. I want to do something on the side. And so I Googled things to do in Charlotte, and comedy class popped up. And I said, people said I'm funny. I come from a long line of funny folks. Why not? So I took a 6-week comedy class at the Comedy Zone here in Charlotte. In
Ooh.
week 7, you have this great graduation showcase, which is the best moment of your life because everyone comes to see you do well. So you could be horrible.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, she was so funny. Then you get in the real world, you're like, hey, where all the people at? Where's all the love? Like it's not like that
Right.
anymore. But I'm like, Dorothy, you've left Kansas. But and the rest, as they say, is history. And as
Wow.
I don't know if I mentioned, I do clean and family friendly humor.
I read that.
And yes, I did mention that. And so it's fun. And I enjoy kind of getting the opportunity, like I said, to do it corporate and associations and ministries and just different places. And I'm having a blast.
Hmm. Is it was that a conscious choice then to do clean comedy? Because it's so funny right now, like in music, right? It feels like every hit music now is explicit, right?
Yeah.
And that the kids drop swear words like sailors, and then it's almost kind of like the cheap joke. Like, isn't it kind of almost harder to do clean comedy now than it is to do dirty comedy?
It's funny when people say that to me. I don't think it is. And as I tell people, I tell you jokes in the manner in which I speak. I don't use profane language in my daily life. So it's not hard for me because I don't say, hey, hello, and F you and F you too. Like I don't speak like that. So I'm just telling you jokes as I said. So for me, it's not hard, but I can see for some folks where it might be. But no, I'm good.
Well, it's cool. That's like, yeah, it's not in your lifestyle, and again, that makes it easier to play places like Ministry, which really needs comedy, I think,
Yeah.
and other places like that. And so, then what happened after this? So you took 7 weeks of class, right? You
It
went
took,
there, but I
yeah.
think right, you've been on the circuit, so you were in those clubs, and some people were not friendly at times. I'm just kind of
It's
curious
not,
about how
yeah,
that process went.
clubs will keep you honest. It's just it's funny, you do comedy at say like a ministry, right?
Yeah,
It's usually a welcoming and open space,
yeah,
and which is great. But
yeah.
comedy clubs will humble you and keep you honest, and they will let you know if something's not funny. And so you learn pretty quickly is like this is not working. So what happened for me is, I got out there after had my graduation showcase, pounding the pavement, going out there, getting booked on shows and that sort of thing. You do like a lot of open mics in the beginning. And
Yeah.
I still do open mics now to when I'm working on new material. In fact, I did one last night. I was working on this new joke and it went over well, and I'm really proud of it. Just like I was telling people that, I was happy to be out of the house because I have these neighbors who, while they're really nice, they're like super noisy, and the kids are like always running, I can hear their footsteps over my head. And I
Yeah.
said, they're like 60% adorable and 40% Clydesdale. It's just like, I was like, these kids are galloping on top of my head. And I was like, I think the parents are giving them like Budweiser in a sippy cup at night or something. So it's kind of fun to do that joke last night and see it go over. So you add that to the toolkit. And
Right.
so what ended up happening for me is I had a fantastic full-time job. Loved my job so much.
Yeah.
And the comedy was just like this great thing I was doing on the side. But thankfully, I've been getting more opportunities. And what ended up happening is that side hustle became a second full-time job. And so I had to make a decision where it's just like, okay,
Sweet.
do I keep doing them both? And I made the leap in January of this year and made the decision to leave my wonderful full-time job and pursue comedy and speaking full-time. So anyone listening, hire me, please. Hire me. Hire
Well,
me.
Tara, I'm a 26-year entrepreneur. I can only
Oh,
applaud you, right, for
I love
striking
that.
on your own. What I would love to tell you too, since you're in the early stages, is your business is working is when the magnetism reverses. And what I mean by that is that right now you got to pound the pavement, you got to follow up on leads,
Yeah.
but you got to do the work. But
Yeah.
at some point, the thing turns around and like things start coming to you,
Oh, nice.
right? It's like you're a magnet,
I
right?
love that.
So things will start coming to you. People are like, and you never know when those seeds get planted. Like I got a seed that was planted like 8 years ago. I visited the office of somebody where they did one event, and I was like, "Where's second event?" So I visited them in the office. Like I think I brought them gifts or coffee or something. I don't know. And then of course I didn't hear from them.
Yeah.
And
No,
then and then she called last week.
you just never know, right?
She goes, "I remember you visited my office."
That's why you just treat people with kindness and professionalism, because you just never know. It's interesting and kind of I'll say a couple of things. The solopreneur life is very interesting. And recently I was in one of these gas station convenience stores buying some stuff.
Yeah.
And a gentleman owed me my change. And a part of my change was going to be 7 cents. Like it was like he owed me $6.07. So I'm looking at my hand and he gives me the $6, but not the 7 cents. And he goes to me, "Oh, I just rounded it up." And I'm thinking, "Sir, I'm a solopreneur. I need my 7 cents. You don't get to take my money."
You
And I
don't
was like,
choose about myself. I can choose. You can't
"You
choose.
can't choose to take my money, sir. No." But I will say this about NSA and how you say things come to you. One of the most profound moments happened to me Monday night during the ball. Is a wonderful woman came up to me and she was complimenting me on my performances. And she said, "What do you want to do with this?" And I spoke to her and told her, what my goal is.
Mhm.
And she said, "I'm going to mentor you." And, we've been talking and she's given me good advice. And I think that's the beauty of NSA. The thing that is so wonderful, I'll say wonderfully baffling to me,
Yeah.
is that you are in a space with fellow speakers, facilitators, coaches, trainers, whoever,
Yeah.
and it does not feel competitive. It feels collaborative. It is collaborative. And everyone wants to help you. And that is so wonderfully refreshing. And I'm so grateful for it.
Yeah, this was I've gone off and on since 2013. Like 2013 was my first influence, uh, and I was probably way outclassed in 2013, right? So I don't know, I didn't feel completely a part of it. But this year's experience was totally different.
You were like the mayor. You were like the mayor there. Everywhere I went, I saw you. You're like, only thing you were missing were kissing babies. You were the mayor at NSA.
I was probably doing that there somewhere too. I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
at one point you were at my table for one of the sessions, and
yeah.
you were just like hamming it up, and then you just left. You like a thief in the night. You just left, and then people at the table said, "He's leaving." I said, "I guess he is." He's going to sprinkle that sunshine at another table now. We were blessed, and now we're not.
So, and people have complained in National Speakers Associations that other coaches like prey on other like early speakers and stuff like that. And I actually really didn't feel any of that this year. I really felt
No,
that
I didn't
what
either.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
this was one of my best influences in a decade, and for me in a decade,
Yeah.
just because I felt at home, right? I found a place, right? I was, it was fun. It was all the education was spot on. Uh,
So good.
and that doesn't always happen, no matter where you're at, no matter what
Yeah.
thingamajig you're at. There's sometimes somebody, doesn't quite hit it. And so this year I did feel that love, that's great. And this is their 50th year. And if they can
That was
continue
amazing.
doing that,
That's amazing.
yeah, I made the decision this year to invest more into National Speakers Association, even more, and I did it this year. And I don't know if I got to share with you. I'm NSA Northwest Member of the Year this year.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. I'm
Yeah.
not surprised. So I can see it.
And
I can see
somebody, by
it.
the way, too, I've got someone on Facebook who's saying, that's great. Kudos for you taking the leap. I do want to
Thank
ask this
you.
question. Oh, I know. I want to ask this one question, though, because you saw it on comedy night. And
Yes,
speaking is different than comedy.
it is.
And I would love to hear your viewpoint. I was in the audience and I certainly have my own point of view, but I would love to hear Tara Brown's version of, like, speaking is one thing. Not every speaker's a comedian and not every comedian's a speaker, vice
Right.
versa. I'm not sure. But anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
You know, being new to this world, I don't know how qualified I am to kind of say, what it is you need to do to be considered successful as a speaker. But I know as a comedian, you know, just like anything, you prepare, it's a timing thing. I had to learn to get comfortable in my own skin
Yes.
and just know, when I first started performing comedy, I would get on stage and I would talk like this and I would be so fast because I was so afraid that you would think I was a fraud and I got to get out of here before people realize that I shouldn't be here. And plus I'm from Brooklyn and that's how what they teach you. When you're born in Brooklyn, you talk fast. That's what we
You
do.
talk. Yeah. Right. It's like, yeah.
But as I've gotten down the road with doing this, I became more comfortable in that it's okay if people are not laughing every 2 seconds. You're telling the story. A friend of mine once said to me, she said, you're the type of person that when you speak, I want to hear what you have to say. So that kind of freed me in a sense of thinking, I'm telling this really good story that's going to pay off
Yeah.
at the end and you're going to like it. And so I think as a comedian, I really take pride in the fact that, I'm building this story. And this is the thing about speaking, right? Like you're telling great stories. So for me, I'm more of a storytelling comedian. So that's how the two intersect.
Mm.
And I feel like speaking gives me an opportunity to maybe, like if I have a certain, like Friday night, we had time constraints. So I can't be up there all day
Right.
telling a long drawn out story. I got to kind of stay within the time allotted.
Right.
As a speaker, I get to stretch that out and add more punches and make it funnier and just keep you engaged. And I think it's a very different skill set, but I think as a speaker, I get to stretch my comedy chops a bit more, and that's exciting for me. Now I want to know what you thought without getting us in trouble. Don't get us in trouble, John.
It's just that I think it's not enough. Like, and I've done it too. Don't get me wrong. Like sometimes I'm a speaker who's sometimes funny. But
Hmm.
when you get on the premise of like a comedy or a comedy club, it is like such a different audience than like a corporate stand up,
It is.
something
Yeah.
or another. And you got to roll with that. And I think some speakers were a touch unprepared, and I think it's always fun in the audience because I've done it on stage, so I've been on the other side, so I'm having some empathy, but I'm also
Yeah.
watching a little bit of a train wreck going on
Oh
there.
my God. I think also you have to know your audience.
Yeah.
That's a very key thing. And I'll tell you two instances when A, I knew my audience, and B, I forgot my audience. And so once I was I was performing, I was gonna be at a comedy festival.
Yeah.
And at a festival, they give you, X amount of performance spots.
Oh yeah, a couple.
And say it again.
A couple spots over.
A couple of spots. And so one of the spots they gave me was gonna be at a kind of a bar and grill that catered more to a millennial crowd.
Hmm.
A lot of my humor focuses on being a woman of a certain age and talking about aging gracefully and embracing aging gracefully.
Right.
I'm not going to do that humor in a bar full of 20-year-olds because they don't care that you're 54 and your joints hurt when it rains. They don't care. So I abandoned that and I said, okay, everybody works in an office or has worked in the office. I'll stick with the workplace humor. Another comedian on that show, she too was a woman of a certain age, and she had a lot of material similar, like getting older. But what I saw is she couldn't pivot from that. And so she went in and did it. And those kids looked at her like, we have no frame of reference whatsoever to what you're talking about. And I got to tell you something, one of the hardest things in the world is when you're a performer and another performer comes up to you after their set did not go well. And they're like, what did you think? It's like, you looked comfortable on stage. You looked comfortable. It's like, what do you do with that? Like, I'm not gonna lie and say it was great, you know. So that's tricky. But the second time when I was doing a show and it was for a charity event.
Yep.
And I have this joke that kind of speaks about, you know, when they ask you if you want to round up your change for charity in the supermarket.
Yeah.
And like who says no to that? So the joke, even though it's lighthearted, could seem like it's anti-charity, and it's not. It's more funny. But as I'm in the middle of the joke, in my head, I'm like, you're about to do an anti-charity joke for a charity fundraiser. And I'm like, abort, just trying to reel it back in my mind. And I cut that sucker off so fast. They didn't even know what was happening. I was like, okay, next joke. So I think you have to know your audience and know who you're dealing with. So I like to prepare a lot, you know, when I know who I'm going to be speaking to, even when, you know, I'm with a client, and I'll always ask to have the meeting ahead of time. Can you tell me about your audience? Can you tell me about the company? And I'll do my own research, obviously, but I would love to know who I'm speaking to. So you can have a point of reference. And, you know, to the point of what we're speaking about today, during the pandemic, I had to do a lot of virtual performances. And a lot of folks who I know who perform comedy, they didn't much care to do virtual because a lot of folks are also very animated. I'm not an animated performer, so I could do it this way and it was fine. And I think it took it took you really tapping into your comfort level with the material. Like, I perform this material, I know it's funny. So even if your mic is off, and I'm not worried that you're not laughing because I know it's good. And I remember doing a show once for a company as a virtual show, and all of their mics were off, even though the host was like, yeah, everybody turn your mics on and whatever, but they kept the mics off and it's fine. But I'm telling the jokes and I see this one guy laughing so hard he's falling out his frame. I'm like, that's my guy. That's if I don't have anybody else in this, I got him. And that you're my guy. And also what I think made it fun doing virtual events during the pandemic is I got to engage more with the audience because I'm looking at everyone's names in the boxes and I can just reference them. And I think that made people feel a part.
Yeah, in a club, not everybody has a name tag, right?
No. And what I found in doing it, if I'm in a club and, you know, in corporate and not so much in corporate events because they're more open to you engaging with them. But it was funny because when I would do a show at a club or a theater or something, and I'm not a comedian who just picks on people. My stuff is more self-deprecating than it's not.
Yeah.
But I see people having this fierce, they're like looking fear-stricken in the front row. And I'm like, what is happening? And I was like, oh, they're afraid I'm going to call on them. I'm like, no. I said a couple of things. I'm a little self-centered, so all the jokes are about me. And secondly, I'm over 50. I got to remember what I'm getting ready to tell you, so I don't have time to engage. I want to remember all this.
I don't have time to mess with you.
Yeah, I eat blueberries for memory, so I can remember it all.
I'm going to share two things that are super important with you.
Yes.
One of them is, so I think you know who Elizabeth Gilbert is. Remember the book Eat, Pray, Love?
Yeah.
Yeah, she sold 16 million books, and she said about that storytelling that the story she ended up telling us is like this finely polished stone because she's told it like over 1,000 times. And she goes, that's what got her comfortable on virtual too, was that she knew that where the people would laugh. Like she doesn't even have to hear the laughter now, and that's what
Yeah.
some of the comedians were missing was that immediate feedback. But because she's seen this story and she's tested it out so many times, she would get those laughs, and it turned out that she was one of the most engaging speakers I've seen over the last 3 years. Without her using any other technology, she just
Yeah.
basically used a natural background, a mic, and a camera, and that was it. And she crushed it, Tara. I
That's
just got to tell you.
fantastic. That's good to hear.
So I want to share with you that that you really took a spot where most comedians failed, literally failed at, and you found the place to be comfortable with it. Which leads me to my second quote I want to share with you, which is that to me, entrepreneurship is the path to authenticity.
Ooh, that's
Right.
very profound.
And so
Entrepreneurship is a path to authenticity. Okay.
and what I think is, so what I heard from you, you doing your comedy is that you slowed down from the Brooklyn you, right, and just started to find, right, what's the Tara Brown you, not the Brooklyn Tara Brown you, but
You
the
know what? You find your voice also. And I think when
right.
you first start out, you don't know who you are. You don't know what kind of performer you are.
Yeah.
But I think and someone said this to me, and I found it to be true that about 5 years in, you start to realize who you are.
Yes.
And that did happen for me. And I felt like at about 5 years into performing, I started doing a lot of material about being a woman of a certain age, and it really resonated with people. And because we're all aging, we're all, trying to do this thing called life. And some of my favorite memories, my favorite moments, excuse me, is after a show when someone's like, "Oh my goodness, I can so relate to you." That's my love language. And you tell me you can relate to me, I was like, my work here is done. So when people say that, and one woman came up to me after the show, and I thought it was hilarious. She goes,
Yeah.
"Girl, you need to talk to the Depends people to sponsor you, because I'm so glad I have my Depends on after watching you perform." I was like, "Thank you, ma'am. That's a compliment. I'll take it." So I'm
Well,
killing it with the Depends community. If
I was
Depends,
going to tell you, I was going to give you this merch idea, right? That you need to create a T-shirt that says
yeah,
"Woman of a certain age." But now, what you got to tell me is like you could sell a box of Depends that says "Woman of a certain."
woman of a certain age. But I tell you what, I do have for merch. Man, I should have brought one for you. I tell you what I do have for merch. I have these really cute bedazzled makeup kit bags, and I call it the middle-aged lady starter kit. And so inside we have things like tweezers to wax those chin hairs I spoke about. Uh, and what do I have? I have like a little mini magnifying glass if you forget your readers. It's super fun. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, now I got merch, so I'm gonna hold off on the Depends for now. But I just thought that was so sweet when she said that.
Women of a certain age. It's so cool when you find a thing that resonates, right?
Yeah.
That does. It truly it resonates, and I think a lot of women of right of these certain ages, maybe don't they're thinking the thoughts in their head, but nobody said them out loud, and I think that's
And
what
and
you're helping them do.
and here's the thing. I think that I want to have us embrace getting older. And I think a lot of times women shy away from talking about their age, and I don't knock that. And they may have reasons why they do it,
Yeah.
but there's nothing more beautiful to me when I see a woman who's going gray naturally and she looks so good and all that wisdom on top of her head. And
Mm.
I make a point anytime I see someone with beautiful gray hair to tell me you look beautiful and that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
I just think that's important that we just embrace who we are. So that's the thing, what I really want to kind of talk to people about, embracing who you are. And I speak a lot about, pursuing passions, because like I said, I started stand up at 45 years old. And you know, something I speak about in my talks is I was having a dinner with a friend once, and lovely friend, adore her. And I said to her, I said, "Hey, I just took some new headshots." And she said, "Boy, I really hope you didn't wear that purple lipstick you like to wear in your headshots." And it kind of took me aback that she said that. And I defended my lipstick. I was like, "I love that lipstick, and I really like that lipstick." But then here was the interesting thing, John. After that dinner, I didn't wear that lipstick for like 3 months. So I asked my audience, what is your purple lipstick? What is the thing that you want to do, you want to wear, you want to try, but you're afraid to do because of what people will say or think about you? And so that was kind of my purple lipstick moment. And I'm not going to allow anyone to not let me be me. Cause I'm the person you want to know.
You
Yeah.
are.
I'm a
That's
good
what.
girl.
That's the
Yeah,
sense.
I'm fun.
Yeah, that was the immediate sense that I got. Just
Yeah.
like first sight, I'm telling you, like intuition, like there's no logistical level on here. It was just pure energy, pure intuition. And that's the other part, Tara, I just want to share with you. Like the more and more you work with on your authenticity, the more like stuff happens like in like a heartbeat. And by the way,
Oh,
now I actually want to share this moment. Okay.
okay.
Okay. Tara, one of my very good friends from Meetings Today magazine literally listened to the first 10 minutes of this interview and has somebody who is looking for clean comedy for an article.
Hi. Let's talk, please.
I have a referral for you, all right?
Thank
I'm going to
you.
introduce you to this gentleman named Logan. And let me just
Hey,
tell you
Logan.
what
Thank
happened.
you.
The one thing I took away from NSA this year, the one biggest thing I took away from Influence this year was this. Goosebumps don't lie.
Wasn't that a great? Oh my gosh. And I got
I'm just getting
goosebumps
it right
after
now.
that was said. You get like it was like a goosebumps inducing moment. You know what else I took away from it that really helped me a lot?
Yeah.
The idea that you can do it your own way.
Yeah.
What I do doesn't need to look like what you do, and what you do doesn't need to look like someone else does, and it's okay. Because I think a lot of times we put this measuring stick up, and it's like, oh my goodness, if I'm not doing it that way, or is that best practices? And it's just like it's okay to be you and your authentic self. And that was a good reminder for me at Influence.
Yeah, and yeah, well, and especially in the early stages, it's so easy to get caught up and think you have to do all these things. It's kind of like the purple lipstick thing too, because you're like, I'm not a speaker if I don't do X, Y, and Z, and it's like,
Right.
you know what? If you're getting booked, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
I
I
say.
hear
And
you.
then my other thing is then test it out. All right, even if the tool works great for Joe Blow and $6 million whatever club, right? It may not work for me and my
Right.
cause. So you
What
got
I
to test
found
it.
too, excuse me, what I found too is anything where I'm not being this version of myself,
Yes.
I'm not comfortable. It feels forced and I don't like that. I don't want to do that. I want to be me. And it's just like, I'm not for everybody, but and that's okay. But I feel like sometimes people want to kind of button you up and say, nobody puts baby in a corner. So just like,
That's one of the things that you'll have to learn if you haven't already learned, which it sounds like you have learned, which is that that the best part about being an entrepreneur too is it doesn't mean you have to say yes to everything. There's many times that you can say no,
but
no.
I will tell you this, and you tell me, because you're 23 years doing this, you said
26.
26.
Yeah.
You have to get past that scarcity mindset, though, don't you? It's just
Oh,
like in the early stages, you're like, where's that next job coming from? And so, but you're right, because if you can say no to stuff, because if it doesn't feel good or align with your values or something, you're like, I'm not interested.
yeah, because
Nope.
it starts to take away a psychological value. Like, there's some jobs that you'll trade some small amount of pain for money, but there are certain
Yeah.
jobs there is no amount of money I will ever take to work with that person ever again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've had to do that, and I think that's the part. I mean, let's go back to your PR job. Have you ever had to do something in PR or in your previous jobs that you didn't want to do, but you want to keep the job, right?
I remember. Oh, I get careful here because as a PR person, you are the keeper of a lot of secrets. So
Hey,
I remember years ago when I did PR and book publishing, I worked with a motivational speaker, and she was not a nice lady. She just was not a nice lady.
you're like, how can
And
that be? But yeah, go ahead.
yeah. And I remember dreading every moment of that experience of working with her. But you know what? It made me stronger. Then the good thing I was like, it'll be over soon. It'll be over soon. It'll be over soon. Because that's the good thing about book publishing. Like you work on the project and then you move on. So it's good. But I've had more good moments than I've had bad. I was telling this story actually. This was one of my funniest moments doing PR. I was kind of a junior person at the time, and this was pre TSA and all that stuff. And I was in New York, and my boss had sent me to JFK to pick up an author who was coming in from London. And so I get to the airport and, taking a car to the airport and had the car waiting out front. And I get there and all of these gate agents are like rushing to me and they're like, "Are you here to pick up Mr. So-and-so?" And I said, "I am." And they're like, he's blonde, right?" And I said, "No, I didn't know he was blind." They said, "Well, pull a car around and we'll rush him right out." And I said, "Okay." And I get this guy in the car and I'm thinking, nobody told me he was blonde. And then we get in the car and he goes, "I'm not blind, right?" I just tell him that so they can rush him to the airport. It was so funny. I just thought it was hilarious. And so I called my boss and I'm like, "Hey," she goes, "He did the blonde thing again." I said, "Yeah, it would have been nice to have that heads up." So I have more funny stories, I will say, than I have, like the motivational speaker who was not kind and nice. But yeah, so it's more good moments than not. But and I will say this, it's like life. When sometimes you have to do those things that are not pleasant or you don't love, but I think it challenges you, it makes you stronger, it makes you better. And that's what she did for me, honestly. It was a blessing in disguise because I knew how to handle if I would have another difficult author to work with. And thankfully I haven't had too many, so it's been fun. And then, like I said, with my level of personality, I tend to, be more engaging than not. I don't. I had a really funny story. I was working with this author who I just adored, and he was a sports writer. And I book him on this interview on HBO, and the whole interview, he has these red glasses. He's an old school reporter, so he has these red glasses, and he wears them like on the tip of his nose like that. And he spent the whole interview with the glasses on his nose, and so his editor says to me in the green room, "You got to get him to take those glasses off his nose." So we get back in the car after the interview, and I look at him and I said, "You're a handsome guy, but the ladies will never see it because you keep those glasses at the end of your nose like that. Nobody can see your face." We never saw those red glasses again. So you just have to know how to do it.
Proper motivation. Okay, speaking of proper motivation, early on you said too that some of your work is in like personal development or in positive. So tell me a little bit more about what are you doing with that?
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I really want to encourage people to just go for it.
Mhm.
Go for it. Life is too short. Why are you not doing the things you want to do? I took drum lessons once because I thought Sheila E. was the coolest person ever. And I was like, I want to drum. I did nothing with it, but I wanted to do it and I did it. So I was like, so I can play Mint Conditions' Pretty Brown Eyes to drums. That's the only song I can play on drums, but that's it. But I have a passion and a heart because, like I said, I'm pursuing my passion. I don't want people to have regrets
Yeah.
to not do the things they want to do. And I also, and it's very important to me, that people don't limit themselves because of their age. You are never too old to do it.
The AARP Foundation, it does a whole series of programming for this. So if you have not tapped them yet, right, we'll have to figure out if that's
I would
something
love
on
that.
the list because it was amazing. Well, we're talking about virtual early on. AARP did a lot of really creative programming with virtual. They were bringing like 80 stars back in like interviews.
Oh, wow.
They actually did these virtual dance parties with Daybreakers, what they had Gloria Gaynor saying "I
Oh,
Will
I will
Survive."
survive.
I,
Yes.
she
I
sang it
love that.
live on
Yes.
live on virtual with us, and it was really, really some crafty stuff. So if that's your audience, there is a target, and there's lots of organizations who have that. Okay, speaking
Oh,
of
yeah.
virtual, I would love
Definitely
to
gonna do
hear.
that.
Right, the last 3 years have probably been the weirdest, wackiest 3 years of the universe. Right,
Yes.
I would love to hear like what's some of the best things that you've seen in virtual in the last 3 years.
I gotta tell you something. It was great for me. I mean, obviously what we went through was horrific. And, it was like I remember just thinking, going outside, like, where are people? It was just very strange. But and when shows went away, comedy shows and live events and those types of things went away, okay, you have to pivot. What happens now? I don't want to lose 2 years of performing. So when these virtual opportunities popped up, there were so many corporate gigs, and I'm so grateful that because I work clean and I was able to get booked for these things. So for me, it was great. The other piece of it that was fantastic is I got to do shows that were live in Italy. And I did something else, I think it was Germany, I think. Might not have had that opportunity to go in person, but the comedy got to extend itself because of virtual. And I'm so incredibly grateful for that. I don't ever want it to go away quite as and listen, here's the thing. You gotta love it when you can perform full on comedy and nobody knows whether or not you have on pajama bottoms. I'm just saying. I
It's
don't have them on now. I'm fully dressed. You can't
yeah,
tell, but I am.
yeah.
But when I tell you, it's just like I can do this in pajama bottoms and you won't know. Sign me up, please.
Well, Terry, you'll love that. In my book, right? People were
Mhm.
looking for new ideas. One day, like probably 2 months or 3 months after pandemic started, I got fed up with the. You remember how they kept pushing the deadline? Like, oh, it's going
Yeah.
to stop here. Oh, it's going to stop here. It's going to. So we kind of got fed up with it, and it was pajama day. It was where we wore a Seahawks onesie, right?
Oh my goodness, I love that.
Every virtual meeting was in a Seahawks onesie for an entire day, and I wrote it in my book. There's a picture in my book of me in a Seahawks onesie saying, "You want to you want to change it up, right? Hat day, pajama day, whatever you want,
How do
right?"
you
It's like,
not love that? How do you not? And you're gonna have so much fun when you do stuff like that. I will tell you this right before the world shut down is when you mentioned I won Jeannie Robertson's Comedy with Class Humor competition,
mhm.
and I'm the most recent and probably final winner of it since she passed away in 2021. But right before the world shut down, I got to perform with her in Dallas, Texas, because
Wow.
that was one of the prizes that you got for winning the
Yeah,
contest. You
yeah.
can choose wherever you wanted to perform with her. And so I chose the Windspear Opera House in Dallas, which was a beautiful venue. And so that was in February of 2020, I think February 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
And then the next month, it was just like, so the fact that I got to do that with her before, life changed as we knew it was a gift that I'm so grateful that I got.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got to go to Disney World in February of 2020 and
Oh,
ride all the rides, including the new Star Wars, like Rise of the Resistance ride. And then, like, March happened, and poof, that was over. And I feel like we were some of the last people in Disney World for 2 years.
wow. I've never been to Disney World, but I've been to Disney Springs. Is that like Disney Light? It's like Starter Disney, isn't it?
No, it's kind of like it's commercial Disney or retail Disney, right?
I
Because
liked it a lot. And I was like, okay, I got to get to the big park, but I'm good with this for now.
there's a great restaurants. All the comedy clubs and dance clubs are there. And then shops. There's actually a cigar shop. That's like something that you could never put in Disney World. There's a cigar shop in Disney Springs.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, Disney Springs was an experience. I definitely, and it's funny, I watching, I forget when I went, but watching the kids be happy, I
Yeah.
said, I see why they call it the great. It was just the happiest place on earth because it was just fun to watch families all dressed together and that kind of thing. So I was like, good for you guys. I'm just here for the food and the t-shirt and the ears and some blinged out ears. I got me some good blinged out ears.
Oh, always got to get some ears. All
Oh,
right. Where do you think? What do you? We'll start on keep on the virtual side.
yeah.
Tara, what do you see in the future, like 5 to 10 years out of virtual? Like either what do you see, or do you have a wish for like what you could do in virtual?
I think it's here to stay. I don't think it's going away. A lot of times when I'm at shows that are not corporate gigs, and I'll say in the audience, I have a couple, I have some workplace humor, and I'll say, who's still working in the office? And a lot of people don't respond or raise their hands, which leads me to believe they're working from home. So that means that virtual meetings and events and those type of things are still happening. And I really hope they do. I hope that, I think that, I'm a little selfish in the fact that as a corporate humorist, I want to be able to be a part of these meetings to just be able to bring, excuse me, infuse some joy and laughter
Oh,
into
yeah.
folks' day. So I don't see them going away. I honestly don't, and I hope they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we've seen. A great example here was in Seattle. One of the first big trade shows was the Northwest Event Show, and we got a chance to speak in a panel on it. And I asked, how many of you are loving this, like, return to, in-person hug fest? And everyone was like, yeah. And then I'm like, how many of you were on a virtual meeting in the last week? And they were like, same 100%.
Wow. Is
Same.
that,
No,
but I
even,
will tell you this. And I'm sorry, I cut you off, I think.
oh, that's all right. Go.
Okay. I will tell you this. I really underestimated though how much I liked hugging people.
And influence
I'm
with
a
the hug fest.
hugger. I'm a hugger. Like it's funny because when this thing first came out, and they're like, you can't touch people. I'm like, I'm so getting this because I hug everybody. I'm gonna get it because I hug everybody. So that was the thing that I think I didn't realize until I think when I went back to my church
Yes.
and we hugged, and I remember getting super emotional
Mm,
because I was like, I missed this, and I didn't even realize how much I missed it.
mm.
So I do love virtual, it makes life a lot easier, but I do think there is some benefit from time to time to getting out and kind of talking to folks and, just give them a hug, give them a fist bump.
Well, there's not many in-person events that I like said, most of the in-person events I kind of went to said, well, most of them could have been replaced by virtual. They would have been just as good. But the event that I went to prior to Influence is Tony Robbins, right? You know Tony
Oh
Robbins.
yeah.
Guy. Tony Robbins has a global youth leadership summit, and 300 youth come in from 38 different countries.
Oh
And I
wow.
went, and I was there to run a scavenger hunt, and then I volunteered as a captain the rest of the week. And it
Nice.
was so transformational. That is one place where the in person, right, just does it better.
Yeah.
You can still do some of these things in virtual, and we've seen it. And right, this thing had all of the other stuff around there, including things like the hugs and the connection and all the stuff that happens that's really hard to do in virtual. Like after the meeting is done, people sit down and have a meal, but on virtual, most of the time we don't do that. And I think those are some of the keys that we miss in the
I
virtual.
tell you, you think about our influence experience. I
Mm-hmm.
can't even imagine not having done something like that in person.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, the beauty, I was sitting with someone and they were so right. And they said, the sessions are fantastic, all of it's great. He said, but the magic happens in these meetings and the networking and the having the drinks and meeting someone for coffee. I met a great woman. I was on, that coffee shop
Yes.
that they had in the hotel, which God love you if you got there in the morning. Did you see those lines in the morning?
It
I
was like
waited.
another kid's convention there, and every
Oh
kid wants
my
coffee
goodness.
now. Holy,
I've never seen a coffee shop that crowded. But anyway, there was the night of comedy night. I went to get some coffee and I got to talking to a really nice lady. And I said, hey, you come to comedy night? She goes, I wasn't. I said, come on. And she grabbed three friends and they came down and all weekend long I got to talk to them and just kind of, meet them and that sort of thing. So there is some benefit to just kind of making that face-to-face connection and you can't replace that.
right.
Like I said, I don't think virtual's gone away, but I think equally they're both important.
I think it's more important now too. Now that people know it can go away, and like it literally could, like something could happen tomorrow, and it could go away again. And I think
Right.
people have that in there. And so, like right now, people are like getting their hugs in, and hopefully they're treating the in-person meetings with even more reverence because they should know it's kind of rare. It costs a
Yeah.
lot of money and time and resources, and I think now people have a better appreciation. Like by like the end of 2019, people were a little jaded, like, it's another concert with Lizzo or whatever, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to like being in the whole experience, and I think people now, because they lost their left arm during the COVID, they now know
Yeah.
how important that in person stuff is.
I tell you the only in-person thing that I was like, I can do without. I had to go to the Apple store like twice in a week. And I was like, how does anyone get anything done? There are too many people in here. And it was too many people. And I was like,
Yeah, that's how did anybody not die in there, right?
I was like, you know what? I thought to myself and I said, I wonder how people, in all seriousness, who have sensory issues
Yes.
deal with that. because they need some sort of hours for that. I actually saw in my local Walmart, there was a sign that said they were going to have sensory hours. And I thought that was fantastic. I don't know how they're going to make that work because it seemed like the hours were the same time that the store was open. But I just remember thinking in the Apple store, I was like, okay, this might be too many people for me.
For you, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's see. What about the future of Tara Brown, right? What do you see for yourself in 5 or 10 years?
Well, I'm gonna do that interview with the magazine, and then I'm gonna blow up. You know, everyone's gonna be like, "We need her." You know what? I am so open. I love to learn. I love to learn from people who are smarter than me, who've been doing it longer than me. I love when people. I appreciate when people pour into me. So the fact that I walked away from influence with so many people wanting to coach me and teach me and show me the ropes, and you wanting to talk to me. And as someone said to me, the foundation event was my debutante ball, where I got introduced to so many people. I am so looking forward to just taking this thing to the next level and just seeing where it leads. I am so open, and there's just nothing but upside.
Netflix special.
All right, let's do it. I got a dry bar comedy special out now.
Saw that.
I've been featured on Standup Nashville on the Circle Network. We can add Netflix. I won't refuse that.
Right, and it's going to be called, right? It's going to be called.
Wait, it took everything. Wait a minute. It took everything. I mean, you saw the guy they had the co-founder of Netflix at the conference. Did you see that?
Yes.
It took everything in me like, I'm sorry, sir, how can I get a Netflix special? Not the place. Know your audience, not the time.
That was beautiful restraint that's going to pay back for you sometime in the future.
Like you said, it will come back to me.
Okay, here's the last question. The last question is, right, Tara, if people listen to this interview and only remember one thing, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
About me?
About this interview.
That we have fun. That we have fun. Like we enjoy talking to each other, and like the fact that open yourself up to new opportunities and experiences, because you never know who you will meet. I got to meet you after the performance. Like I said, you had this amazing warm smile. You were so super friendly the whole weekend. And I just think a lot of times we need to open ourselves up to new experiences and opportunities, because you just never know who you meet. Like I said, I met the lady in the coffee shop. Yeah. I made a new friend. I made so many new friends, and it was great. And if anything, I hope people get from our interview, like, look what happens when you put yourself out there. You go to a place you hadn't gone before, you make new friends, you get to be on a podcast interview. It's everything. Yes.
And you get an article out of the podcast interview before it's even over.
But again, like I said, to my passion, it's just like, go for it. Like, stop holding yourself back. You don't want to have regrets. You just
do it now, right?
Do it now. Why not you? Why not now?
Why not you? Why not now? All right. Well, that's Tara Brown. Tara Brown, I've got one key message for you. Are you ready for it?
Ready.
Thank you for attending the performance. And a special thanks to all those who helped with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only, go to TaraBrownComedy.com. Check her out. She is definitely one to watch. Tara, thank you so much. I look forward to chilling with you at the next either Thrive or Influence, because I think I'm going to go to Thrive this year too.
Please do, so we can have a laugh and a hug.
Thanks again, Tara.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me.
All right, this is John Chen. We've just been chatting with Tara Brown, who's crushing it. Oh my God, made me laugh, gave me goosebumps, and really, honestly, we made something happen here, and that truly came off of an in-person connection. Right? I engaged with Tara, Tara engaged with me, and I just love that she said yes to this interview, and that's what you should be doing. You should be saying yes, right? She said, say yes to your life. Do us a favor, either hit subscribe or like, or wherever you are, follow on this thing. And if you want to be the next person on the Engaging Virtual Meetings podcast, go ahead and hit the engagingvirtualmeetings.com/meet and then click interview. And you too could be the next person here on the Engaging Virtual Meetings interview. Until next time, we'll see you later.
Drawing star people and keep on keeping people, show you got heart.